We're at the political desk again. It's Tuesday, and there's a lot of politics still left to go before the runoff election in May. Joining us today from Austin is George P. Bush. He is the current Land Commissioner of Texas, and he's running in a very hotly contested race for Texas Attorney General. Commissioner Bush, thanks for being with us today.
Great to be with you. Thank you for having me on again.
Really glad to see you. I was in Austin over the weekend for the Capitol 10,000. That's where you are today. How are things going there, and where do you go from here?
Well, in Austin, near our state's capital, we're worried about Texas. The eyes are upon West Texas and the High Plains today with the anticipated forecast for high winds and drought conditions. And so most West Texans are already familiar with these challenging conditions, but I've been talking with folks at the State Firefighters Association, in addition to the Austin Firefighters Association. They will be supporting me in this race, but I think it's another reminder that it's first responders in Texas that run to the crisis, that run to the smoke and to the fire to protect houses, lives, limbs, and yet they don't have that type of support from the current Attorney General on these types of issues. So I know that a lot of us around the Capitol are thinking and praying for West Texas. We're praying for rain. We're praying for better public policy, frankly, to get more water as it's needed in drought areas of our state.
Well, and we're very sensitive to that here in the Concho Valley. We are under a red flag warning today. It's dry. We know that we're in a drought situation, and it is intensifying. And we need all the help we can get. And we need everybody to be very careful with what they do outside when it comes to welding and burning and hauling trailers and that sort of thing. Let's talk about this race a little bit. The Biden administration has announced that it's doing away with Title 42. That affects us at the border. What is Texas doing now, and how do you view that situation?
Well, Texas needs to do more. And that's been one of my criticisms of Ken, is that this lawsuit against the Biden administration is being led by Missouri, Louisiana, and Arizona. Great states, but not as great as ours. A true conservative attorney general would have been leading a charge on fighting the Biden administration for lifting Title 42. Any Border Patrol official that you talk with will say this is the most important public policy lever that they have available to them to close the asylum loophole that exists in response to the most historic surge of illegal immigration we have seen in our state's history. And I've talked to the Border Patrol. I talked to 2 county sheriffs since this announcement just yesterday, and they tell me that they expect anywhere between, instead of 2 million, which is still an incredibly high number of illegal immigrants to cross our border this year, to maybe jump to 4 to 5 million in the year of 2022. It's unsustainable as a country, as a state. And regardless of your politics, this is just bad policy that's jeopardizing the safety of our communities, especially in the Concho Valley. And so, as a candidate, I'm out there proposing a mobile prosecution unit to do what we can at the state level to backstop Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star, to assert our state's sovereignty, to work to overturn Arizona versus USA, which prevents our local law enforcement from enforcing federal immigration law. We need to get tougher. I don't know why we've gotten soft, and we need a change in office to make this happen.
Well, and we saw inflation numbers today that we haven't seen since 1981 when I was in high school, and that's been a while. Also another direct result of what's going on with the Biden administration. How does that impact Texas and the Attorney General's office?
Well, Yantis, you're a pretty young dude. That couldn't have been too long ago. But in terms of inflation, you're right. We hit a 40-year high, all led, if you think about it, dating back to the beginning of the Biden administration. What were some of the first acts of office? He drafted dozens of executive orders, namely trying to shut down the oil and gas business in the industry in Texas, and going after supply chain entrepreneurs that are trying to deliver goods from abroad into our economy here in the US. And so his policies have actually directly penalized consumers. And so the border is important, law and order is important for an attorney general candidate. But when I talk to everyday Texans, they tell me that they can't afford a 15% increase year over year of their household items. And this can all be solved by going back to free market ideas, allowing the business communities to find those solutions, to find lower price points for products, because there's nothing like the incentive of profit for business to find the best solution for consumers instead of government with its heavy hand and the stroke of bureaucrats' pens to shut down Texas business.
Well, and that affects us here in the Concho Valley. It affects the Permian Basin as well. And we saw today, just briefly, Washington saying something about the ethanol measure. Can you go into that at all?
Yeah, so Biden, he's finding these little soft Band-Aids that he thinks will solve the energy crisis by, for example, releasing out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And now this announcement in terms of eliminating waivers for ethanol mandates, which, by the way, is placating and pandering to states like Iowa and those that house the ethanol industry. Instead of getting on the phone with our own oil and gas industry and asking for assistance, assessing ways in which we can further incentivize energy production, whether that's natural gas deliveries out of our terminals on the Texas Gulf Coast, or producing more oil or joint venturing with freedom-loving nations around the world. Instead, he's calling the mullahs of Iran, trying to compromise on the Iranian nuclear deal, calling sheikhs in Saudi Arabia, and calling dictators in Venezuela. I mean, this is an America last policy and viewpoint on the energy possibilities that exist in our state. In Texas, if the government just gets out of the way, can lead on this, creating jobs here, economic opportunities for our children and our grandchildren, and also creating more prosperity for the capital, by the way, since we generate a lot of revenues off of oil and gas severance tax. So maybe one day we will have a president that will put states like Texas first and American energy industry first.
There's always hope. This is a point in an interview where I know you're busy. There are so many issues in this campaign. It's a hotly contested campaign. So without asking any questions, I'm just going to open the mic and let you talk to the voters about the issues that are near and dear to your heart, and then we'll move on from there. So what is your message for the voters in this runoff election right now?
Well, I'm focused on the border. I'm talking about specific ideas and proposals to do a better job for the people of Texas. Instead of having an attorney general that reacts to the cases, we need somebody that's going to act as a street lawyer, work with ranchers and farmers in border areas to help create the Texas wall to finish the Trump wall. That's what I've been doing as land commissioner and would bring that experience to the job on day one. We need an attorney general that's backing law enforcement in Texas, with crime at an all-time high in several cities in our state, including the city that I'm calling you from today. And Houston now with a projection of more homicides than any other city in the country. I mean, that's just simply unacceptable. And this isn't the Texas that we know and that we love. I'm also a Christian, a father, and a husband. I think about the assault on religious freedoms and liberties in our country. And I was just recently invited to and very proud to sign on to Liberty First lawsuit against the Department of Defense. I'm a military veteran, served in the Navy, and a group of Navy SEALs sought a religious accommodation to not be forced to have a vaccine before they go into combat zones. But yet their request was dishonored by Department of Defense. And I remember deploying to Afghanistan, that accommodation being made for my Jewish colleagues and my Muslim friends that were able to wear yarmulkes and also headdresses. Why aren't Christians given that same accommodation when it comes to vaccine objections? And so that's the type of leadership that I want to bring in as the next attorney general, fighting every single day, finding ways to find standing to bring these cases in local, state, federal court, and to fight for conservative Texas ideas until my very last breath.
Well, and thank you for that. This is the holiest week in the Christian calendar. This is Holy Week. Do you have a message for those Christians out there?
Well, certainly it's an incredible celebration to think that Christ is risen, that Christ came into our lives, the Son of our God, who we were created in the image of, and the amount of sacrifice that he had given not only to the Israelites, but for all freedom-loving people. And, I just know that in our family, our boys are 8 and 6. It's going to be a very important weekend because we've begun our faith in formation lessons together, sometimes in person, sometimes digitally, but important that that foundation is there. And frankly, if we had more prayer in school, I think our society would be a lot better, or at least having the state of Texas consider a religious education for those parents that choose to send their children to religious schools in Texas. But no, I just pray for a strong nation, for good leadership, as we learned under Isaiah, that we need good leaders, and we need the future of Texas to stand for these values and to lead, to follow our footsteps one day, to make sure that our state remains the greatest state in our country.
Okay, and the primary election is May 24th, so we got, about 6 weeks left. How do voters find out more about you and connect with your campaign?
Well, my wife, Amanda, who's originally from San Angelo, reminds me there is approximately 40 days left until primary. And so we're excited in the Bush household after 14 months of campaigning across this great state to spread this message. Your viewers can check out georgepbush.com, where they can learn more, not only about my platform, but the Texas Justice Tour. We just announced this, where we will be traveling to all major regions of Texas, including West Texas, to spread our message. And feel free to reach out to me via my website or my Facebook page, where you can coordinate with our activities. And we'd love to see you come out to one of our events. And as you said, voting is on May 24th. Early voting starts 8 days before that, the Monday before the big day. So I thank you again for having us.
All right. Commissioner George P. Bush, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We will see you on down the campaign trail.
Take care. God bless.
Thanks so much. For San Angelo Live, for Commissioner Bush, I'm Yantis Green.